From darkness to the light, Syrian families find peace in rural England. Success of resettlements in Herefordshire has challenged ideas of where to place refugees. I'm sure that we have seen this challenge happen somewhere else before, a little village in Ireland, and I wonder how that turned out. 1 year on, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the village's name. So the village and refugees let down by state. Lack of resources, pressure on healthcare, and rising joblessness does not bode well. Oh, wow. Well, that's because the village, with a population of 300, introduced 119 refugees. It's never gonna go well. So we've seen this happen. It doesn't go well because it affects different social programs, it affects jobs around the area. It doesn't work. But the reason that they're coming to rural areas now, being forced to come to rural areas, this village had a vote and the majority of the village voted against it. The reason that they are now sending refugees to these areas is because it's fucking failed them going into the cities as well. So now just put them in the countryside. Okay, back to the Herefordshire article. It says, sitting in his lounge in their bungalow, looking out over a green garden peppered with children's toys, the family reflect on how life in the village of around 500 residents compares to their time in the war-torn Syrian city of Homs. First of all, it really bothers me that they've been given a bungalow. That's the only thing that bothers me about this, because it seems like they're integrating fine. But the bungalows, it bothers me because bungalows are really vital for disabled people and elderly. I understand these people need help, but there's hostels that they could have gone into. There's other accommodation, flats maybe. Bungalows should have been reserved for elderly and disabled. Goes on to say, Samer and his family are great advocates for the scheme, not just for the opportunities resettlement has brought them, but also for what Syrians can offer the UK. I would say to the government to allow more refugees to come with ease. They should not worry. In the future, they will see the positive change refugees can bring. I don't want them to bring change. I quite like English culture, I'm afraid. Syrians are not lazy people. They like to work. So do British people. So bringing Syrians are going to reduce job opportunities for the British public. Great offer, thank you. And here's where I believe, in small amounts into rural areas, it's fine, because this family and the people that have come, they seem to be integrating, because it goes on to say, the family threw themselves into their new life, signing up to English classes, which is great, enrolling their children in local schools, and in Mohammed's case, heading out to work at a KFC restaurant. First of all, that's great, as long as they don't try and push for changes in the community. That's no issue. I think it's great. Enrolling themselves in English classes is great. I think that should be mandatory anyway. Children in schools, as long as it doesn't affect British children going to schools, that's fine. And they're going out to work as well. That's also great. But as long as it's in small quantities, it's not going to have drastic effects. The more that you bring, the more pressure it puts on the local community, as proven by that small village in Ireland. So it needs to be controlled very, very carefully. There's a perceived wisdom about refugee settlement, that you need high levels of diversity in an area. You need good access to relevant culture support, faith-based communities, access to mosques, halal food, good services, which are all great for resettlement. She says Herefordshire doesn't tick all those boxes. It's very rural. There's not lots of cultural diversity. But do you know what? I think that's why they've been forced to integrate. If you were to bring in high amounts and you just put them into the same area, they're never gonna integrate. You've brought in a low amount and they've been forced to integrate, because otherwise they're not gonna enjoy this new life opportunity for them to be safe. So they have to integrate. The more you bring into the same area, the less they can integrate, because they're just going to stick with one another. So, but with that being said, this article has proven Herefordshire doesn't need a mosque, so don't ever build one. Yeah. Herefordshire doesn't tick all the boxes. It's very rural. It doesn't need to tick all the boxes, and it shouldn't have to tick the boxes to adhere to their demands and their feelings. As long as they're safe, that's all I care about. And as long as they don't cause problems, that's all I care about. So we don't need to pander to what their demands are now. They're fine. In Hampton Bishop, the children are playing in the sunshine in the back garden. Not going to attempt the name. Is serving up thick Arabic coffee and baklava. Samir is asked how life might have unfolded for him and his family had he not been offered a chance to start again in the UK. It would have probably been bad if he did stay in Syria. They seem like a genuine peaceful family. My issue is where it says start again in the UK. This isn't a start over. I think councils and the government need to remind the refugees that this is for your safety until the conflict has resided, it's gone in Syria, and then you go back home. It's not out of spite, it's out of principle. We are protecting you from war. Once that war is over, you have a home to go back to. This isn't your home to stay in now. With all of this being said, I don't actually have a problem with the family that has arrived in Herefordshire, because it seems like it's in low amounts and they're integrating. I feel personally, the more you bring into the same area, the less integration there will be, and we have seen this in large cities all across the UK and all across Europe. So Herefordshire, I believe, has brung a significant amount and should stay at just these families until possibly in the future again if needed. But that's a long way down the road. I just wish that our government and our councils would put more into helping the 13,000 British veterans that are homeless and struggling with PTSD. Herefordshire is known for not helping its veterans, as it did not help SAS hero Bob Curry, I believe his name is, and the only time they did get help is when Piers Morgan went on a tirade against Herefordshire Council live on TV, at which point he finally got his bungalow, which bungalow really bothers me. And he slept in a hostel. He was forced to go to a hostel so that he wasn't homeless. Why aren't the refugees going to a hostel? It's a lot bloody safer than being in Syria, and they should be happy about that. Why? Why do we have to pander and put them in houses that the elderly could have, like bungalows, the disabled could have, the veterans could have? But no, we've got a white knight, and look, we're nice to refugees. I get it. But there's our own people we need to look after first as well. Putting them in hostels, there's nothing wrong with that. Look after our veterans first. I'm sure the refugees wouldn't mind living in a hostel until the fucking conflict is done with. It's fucking pathetic. So, I'm going to play you the clip of how our veterans are treated in these hostels, and then Piers Morgan going on a tirade at the Herefordshire Council, putting them in their place.
You're homeless.
I am.
Why on earth have you been left in that situation? I know that at one stage even, you were in a hostel where you had to ask permission to use the toilet. This is not the way anybody thinks our heroes should be treated.
Yeah, you were escorted to the toilet.
There's a statement from the council. I was going to read it, but you know what? I can't be bothered. Here's the reality, Herefordshire Council. You can come up with all the statements you like. This guy is a national hero. They both are. He's homeless because you have not seen fit to take care of him. So rather than issuing stupid little statements to us, why don't you do your jobs and give this guy a proper council house right now, i.e. today?
There is an upside. The SAS hero did get a one-bedroom bungalow after in Herefordshire, which is great. I do wish the Syrian family all the best, and I hope that they continue to integrate into Herefordshire. I hope that there is more thought about how to integrate these Syrian families into communities, rather than just shoving them in an area and hoping for the best by the councils and the government just to white knight and seem like good people. Anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe.